Now we're ready for some really tricky stuff where we'll have to use two bar models because it's a two-step problem. We may use two part-part whole bar models, we may use two comparisons, or we may use one of each. So let's jump right in. Matt has 428 Lego pieces. John has 127 more Lego pieces than Matt. How many Lego pieces do they have together? So I start with my answer sentence. They have Lego pieces together. And now I can reread and really start my bar model. I want to know how many they have together, though. I'm going to keep that in the back of my head. Matt has 428 Lego pieces, so I'm going to draw his box and put Matt 428 Lego pieces. John has 127 more Lego pieces than Matt. So right now we're just comparing them. I know John has more, so I'm going to use a comparison bar model. I'm going to make it bigger. John. And I don't know how many he has, excuse me, but I do know he has 127 more. So I'm going to dot this in, and I can label that 127. And I can clearly see that this is the biggest piece, so I add 428 plus 127 is 15 ones, 5 tens, and 5 hundreds. So I know that now Matt has 428 Legos and John has 555, but I want to find out how many they have together. Now there are two ways to figure this out. The book does one way where they put a bracket here, and if you have a bracket here it means add up the quantities, but I like it to be a little more visual for my second graders. So because we're now adding these together, they're part of the same set, so we're now going to do a part-part whole bar model. So I'm going to do my bar for Matt, and I know that Matt has 428 Legos, and now I'm adding John's in there, so I can make a bar for John, and I know how many he has now because we just solved for it, 555. And if I want to find out how many they have together, then clearly this is the biggest piece, so what do I have to do? I have to add. So I would do 428 plus 555, and 8 tens, 983 is our answer. And again, my students would be checking with the inverse operation for both of these to make sure they did it right, but 983 would be our answer. So we used a part-part whole, but we also used a comparison bar model to begin with. So our next problem says Sally has 127 marbles. David gave Sally 219 marbles. Sally then gave away some of her marbles, leaving her with only 185 marbles. How many marbles did Sally give away? Really confusing if you're just reading it, so I'm going to jump right in with my bar models, and hopefully that's going to help me sort out my thoughts and be able to lead me to how to solve the problem. So how many marbles did Sally give away? Sally gave away marbles. And again, always start with your answer sentence so you're focused on what you're trying to find. So let's see. Sally starts with 127 marbles. So I'm going to put Sally here and label her marbles, 127. And David gives her more. So again, she's getting more. It's part of the same set. So I'm going to do a part-part whole. And this is what David gives her. And that's going to be 219. So I can find out how many marbles Sally has before she gives any away just by knowing that this is the biggest piece and knowing I have to add. So 127 plus 219, 16, 4 tens, and 3 hundreds. I would check it with the inverse operation. And I know this is 346. So that's how many she has before she gives some away. So, but then she gives some away, and now she only has 185. So again, I'm going to start with my new bar model. I now know that this is what she starts out with, 346, and she gives some away, and she's left with 185 marbles. So I want to know how many she gave away. Clearly I can see this is the biggest piece, so we know if you're not solving for the biggest piece, you're solving for one of the smaller pieces. We do what? Yep, we subtract. So 185 from 346, 1, 200s, that would be 6 tens and 100. And of course we would check that with the inverse operation, 185, and we would get our answer is 346. So we now know Sally gave away 161 marbles. So I do have a couple more two-step problems for you to look at that I will do in my final video. Thanks.